Hello there everyone, Ashnflash here, and welcome on into every reference and Easter egg in the upcoming LEGO Marvel Superhero set number 76218, the Sanctum Sanctorum. Now this is going to be available beginning on August the 1st, but I was sent this early by LEGO/Land to do a review for, and I thought that we'd sit down and actually talk about the 65 plus Easter eggs and references in the set. It is crammed with a ton of different things. We're actually going to go in order of the MCU movies and then talk about just Marvel in general and then also LEGO. You could find chapters down below actually talking about all the different movies. There's some that are chapters that are a lot longer than others. You'll see why as we go through. So let's go ahead and let's get started with the first movie in the MCU that's referenced, Thor. And I believe that in the back there's actually a reference to Darcy's dog walk business. And clearly some people are interested. They've taken the tabs for the information. But what's interesting is that in the first Thor movie, there's actually a scene where she rescues a dog. It's a deleted scene. I'm not sure if these are necessarily canon, but they decided to do this Darcy dog walk business reference. No clue why. But anyways, next up, right above that from the Avengers, is actually a shawarma advertisement for the restaurant that's referenced in the movie. And then, of course, we see it later on at the end of the movie with them all eating there. From Captain America the Winter Soldier, there's actually a huge advertisement of the 6x6 sticker, and it's actually an advertisement for a Captain America exhibit opening up at the Brixtonian. Now, technically, there is no, like, the Smithsonian's in Washington, not in New York City, but however, they decided to do that because the name works better. Anyways, in that poster, you could actually see it's very reminiscent to the first Avengers poster, both just the stance as well as his actual outfit. And also in the background there's his regular shield and then the classic one as well, which I think is a really cool thing to include. Next up, this is one that I didn't mention in my review that a ton of people pointed out. On the roof of the Sanctum, there's actually a potted plant, and some people have suggested potentially maybe that's meant to be actually the potted Groot on the roof. And I'll just talk about this first here. It could have gone in the LEGO category, but Justin Ramsden, he's designed a ton of iconic LEGO Marvel superhero sets. He actually designed this set, and he just recently did the I Am Groot set as well, so potentially it's also a reference because of that. Now, here's the biggest chapter, Doctor Strange. Of course, this set is actually based off of the Infinity Saga, but the most references in this set is from the first Doctor Strange movie, despite the minifigures not. So that's really frustrating to me because this has the most references to that first movie. One of the first things that you actually walk into is you see this world map, and there's actually this map with a legend with the Sanctum logo, and it shows that there's actually all three of the Sanctums. We've got the one in New York, the one in London, and then also the Hong Kong one on them. Now, in the back room inside the fridge, there's actually this eaten apple, which is of course what he first tests the time stone with. Then outside of that, with the portal in the back alleyway, you can actually enter Comertage, and inside there it's actually the library, and in behind the chain is actually the Book of Cagliostro, which inside has some like pages with the mark of like Dormammu and things like that we see Caecilius and also the Ancient One use in the first movie. Also, there's the holder for the Time Stone. Now, it would have been awesome to get like an Eye of Agamotto print, but they decided to include the Time Stone just there, sort of like what was also in the Sanctum, so just thought that's interesting. There's also a page on the inside there referencing the vaulting boots of Valtour, which is of course used by Baron Mordo in them. In behind the staircase, there's actually a travel brochure, which I feel like is a reference to just all the different trips that Stephen Strange went on looking for his cures and everything like that. We also have a 2x2 tile of like x-rays of his hands, as well as the watch that Christine gave him is right next to that. Up above, there's like a poster, I think, of Caecilius opening a portal, as well as the Ancient One is there as well, with some magic going on there, which is really cool that they're both referenced here. Unfortunately, they're not in the set. And then up above, there's actually like two cards with a sticker on them saying Shambhala, which is a reference to the Wi-Fi password from the first movie. There's also a page up above of like the apple, again probably a reference to the apple that he used the time stone on. Then on the floor there's a Cloak of Levitation page. The portal's there, and behind, this is one of the play features, there's one that goes to the mountains, and then also the desert. The Staff of the Living Tribunal is actually next to a portrait of Mordo up above. And then on the other side of the window, there's this portrait of Wong. I'm fairly confident it is him, just like the cheekbones, the face, and everything like that. I don't know if it's maybe a comic version or it's actually him from the first movie. And it's a lot of people said it's the ancient one. It's not, with all of the facial features. There's also no eyelashes, no lips or anything like that they would normally do for a female minifigure. Then on the other wall, there's actually a really funny reference to the fight between Caecilius and Strange, when the cloak is like pulling him towards the crimson bands of sidetrack, which he throws onto Caecilius. Strange thought that the cloak was wanting him to get the shield and axes there on the wall, so I think that's funny that they're next to each other. I really love that. Also included is on this stand the brazier of Bom Galiath. Hopefully I said that right. It actually appears in all 3 of the LEGO Sanctums, which I think is really interesting. Also, Christine uses this in the Multiverse of Madness. There is actually a cloak of levitation display there that you can attach the cloak to. And then also just here we have a chest, which is seen in the fight between the 2 of them. And then also a couple of helmets, with this helmet here, which is seen when like Strange is knocked down. And then the other helmet as well is seen in the background. So again, that's everything from that first movie, and there's no minifigures from that first movie, despite this being labeled under Infinity Saga. Very, very disappointing. This is another one from Spider-Man Homecoming that I just don't really believe. Just there were enough people to say it that I thought I'd have to mention it here. Some people think that this is like one of the Chitauri batteries. Not really sure how Strange would have it. Maybe it was just picked up from like the Battle of New York or something. I don't know, but I thought I'd mention it. Also, I saw something similar in Peter's apartment in the other Sanctum, so thought it was worth mentioning. From Thor Ragnarok, there's a garbage bin. There's actually a 2x3 tile with a sticker of the Shady Acres retirement home sign. And that is actually where Loki left Odin. But that name has been used in a ton of different media as well, if you look it up, different movies and TV shows. Also, back on the street, we actually have a 1x2 tile with a sticker of the address Bleecker Street, and that was what was left behind when the portal opened up and sucked Loki into it, and then Strange left that for Thor to come visit him. Then, of course, they do meet up, and they are sitting down talking to each other, and he's got the pint of beer, which is actually here included with these 2 chairs. And then also, lastly included up above is actually an umbrella in a little holder, and that is most likely meant to be a reference to Mjolnir in disguise. Avengers Infinity War features a couple of different things. Now, I don't agree with this one because it doesn't really make sense. Underneath the stairs, there's actually the Tesseract and some debris, and a lot of people actually said, oh, it's the Tesseract because that's where Bruce Banner fell from the Asgardian ship and landed in the Sanctum. Well, Thanos crushed the Tesseract, so why would it be assembled underneath the stairs? Thought I'd mention it regardless. And then going back to the fridge, there's actually a reference to the conversation that Wong, Strange, Tony, and Bruce all have in Avengers Infinity War, and inside the fridge, it's probably melted now, but there's actually an Iron Man ice cream and a Hulk ice cream, which is of course the Stark raving hazelnuts, and then the hunk of Hulk burning fudge. Also, again, everyone's saying this, I don't think this is the case, but Tony suggests in that conversation, why don't you just stick the time stone down a garbage disposal? Now everyone's like, that's why there's time stones in the garbage, because it's been destroyed. It doesn't make sense, because first of all, garbage disposal, that's something in your sink. A lot of people misuse it. They're like, garbage dispenser or garbage chute or throw it in the trash. That's not the line. Garbage disposal, it's to grind it up, which technically then the stone would be in pieces, but they don't do it. Anyways, regardless, I also thought of something else. Potentially it's just that can in the actual garbage just spilled some Mountain Dew or 7-Up or Sprite or something. I don't know. From Avengers Endgame, there is actually a reference to the Storm Baker's Pizza, and that is because Justin Ramsden also designed Bro Thor's new Asgard house last year, so I think that's a fun reference, just sort of like I Am Groot. From Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, there's actually some 10 Rings graffiti on the back. Now, I could have included this with Iron Man or just Marvel in general, but I know that if I didn't put this here, everyone would comment that. And then also, there's a poster on the fridge for the karaoke bar or whatever, where Wong goes out karaokeing with them at the end of the movie. I think that's really funny. Spider-Man No Way Home has a few different things. One of them being like the snowy picture. Everyone commented that this is actually a reference to when the snow came in from that. There's also just like snowy locations in the first and second movie. And then also there's a fireplace and a chair. Now, some people said, oh, it's a reference because Tony was sitting on a chair. No, he's actually sitting on a couch. Whereas in No Way Home, we do see a chair next to the fireplace that, of course, Strange lights. And then also just the fridge in general could have been a reference to that because we do see Ned actually open that up in the movie. Multiverse of Madness has not as many references, and there's actually the Sands of Nisanti next to the chair. So maybe you could have like Illuminati, Mordo talking to Strange, and then also Wong and Strange are fighting Gargantos in this picture. And this one's maybe a bit of a stretch, but Sinister Strange's magic is actually this transparent pink color. Now in the battle, it's more of a purple, but it's not as dark as the purple that we see the Dead Strange use. It's more of like in between, but there's just not a color for that. But sometimes when it clashes with the orange, it looks pink, like you see here on screen. So just thought I'd throw that out there. From Marvel's What If, the Watcher is actually included in one of the dimension portals, which we'll talk about in the Marvel section, but specifically he is referenced there, watching over everything. And then we've also got creme brulee on the fridge, which is a reference to the What If episode of What If Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands. Now just Marvel, gonna rattle these off really quickly. There's a Black Widow sticker on the little newspaper stand. There's a SHIELD poster of Nick Fury trying to recruit people on the back. The Tesseract/Cosmic Cube page is inside of the library. It doesn't actually spell that out. Doesn't spell a Cosmic Cube. Doesn't spell a Tesseract. If you look at the characters, they'd have to repeat for both S and then C for Cosmic Cube. Just doesn't line up. There's also a book in the library up above in the Sanctum by Dr. Bruce Banner on anger. There's also a dark red book with a wand on it. I suggested potentially that's a reference to Wanda. I don't know. There's also Spider-Man web on the outside next to the graffiti. In the portal room, there's actually, of course, where we saw the Watcher. That is the Dark Dimension. It's a very comic book Dark Dimension, not necessarily one from the movie. Maybe it is. I don't know. You could take it that way, but it definitely seems more comic booky. In the entranceway, there's actually a little poster of like Doctor Strange performing magic. It's not like really a specific reference to anything, but it's sort of his comic book outfit, but also the Multiverse of Madness one. So just put it here. And just because there's not really a reference to it in the MCU, there's a box titled Wong Stuff. And then also there's one called Peter Stuff in the other Sanctum. Now for Lego, there's actually quite a lot to go through. I don't know if this is actually a reference, but in the very first Sanctum we got, there's like the portal monster coming out of it, and that never appeared in the movie. But also potentially that like you could actually turn around the wall and have Gargantos like stretching out the tentacles and everything, and you could have everyone flying around the books. It's just like very reminiscent to that first set. On the outside, there's actually the Law Times, which is a newspaper that I couldn't find anywhere on any Marvel database, but it is actually a newspaper from the Lego Daily Bugle set. And from the Daily Bugle, we actually have the exact same build, pretty much, to that same trash bin that appears in the Bugle. It's the same one in Behind the Sanctum. Really love that. There's also some sort of build here, almost like a totem or something, which is actually from Orient Expedition. Instead of it being in yellow, it's in gold. Also, there is a crystal there, and potentially that could be the Ninjago Realm crystal, because a lot of people point this out. It's actually the exact same build that appeared inside of the museum from Ninjago City Gardens last year. There's also a coffee mug hidden. No clue why that is, as well as there is a fire extinguisher inside of one of the glass displays. That's just something that appears so many times in Marvel sets. Also, if you didn't know, again, this connects to modulars. So we've got all the pegs and holes and everything like that, so you can connect it to modulars. But specifically, there is a lamp on the outside that is pretty much the exact same modular lamp, but instead of being white, it's black. Maybe that's just going to be a staple of like Marvel modulars going forward. There's AV next to like a bunch of the graffiti, and most likely that's a reference to the graphic designer Ashwin Visser. And then also the designer of the set, going back to Justin Ramsden, there's a ton of different things. In an interview, he said that he loves to include the chicken parmesan or parmo in a ton of his different sets. So specifically, you could see that on the shawarma advertisement, that is the exact same design and print pretty much that they've used other times in past sets for chicken parmesan. I think that's really interesting. he has actually been involved in the Monkey Kid team, and Monkey Kid staff actually appears next to Wong there. Again, Wong is actually Chinese, and it's also based off of like the Chinese myths and all that. So I think that it's really interesting that it just further cements to me that that is Wong and not the Ancient One. But anyways, everyone, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Which reference is your favorite? Did I miss anything? Did you notice anything that I didn't mention here in the video? Leave it all down below. Hope you guys did enjoy the video. Hope you all have a great day. I will see you all in the next one.